Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. You guys are doing well today, wherever you are. Today's video is about how God has done the impossible in my life. And to be honest, I don't know how to talk about this story without going into some detail of very depressing things. I'm always looking for a reason to do a video, and I usually don't leave any ideas. Like I wake up, I eat to do a workout, have a shower, and then I ask God. You know, it's not to say I never do ahead of time, but today it's this. It's a heavy topic for me, and I never want to come off between my relationship with God and you guys to ever be boastful, proud in the things that I went through, because the things I went through are horrible, and they still are. My story, I wish I could just be interviewed by someone on a podcast or something like that, or like Zoom, and never say this story again. But it's one worth telling, and I'm not getting into details this time. But what I will say is this: I can't make video after video, go along my life, and have a better life that I have now, doing the most impossible things that I thought were impossible, when you hear where I was. So I just can't do that. I can't go along not making a video like this. So where I was in life, it was a point of no return. And from all the Christian videos or even stories that I've heard in my life, I haven't heard one that goes so deep and painful as this one. I haven't. I'm telling you the truth. And I don't want to go into the detail. I just want to kind of give the basics of it. If you want to go into more of the detail, this time I will link I Shouldn't Be Alive, part 1 to 4. And everything you hear in there, there's even more to that. I didn't have a good life, okay? And so I'm going to stop for a second. I just want to answer one question. I'll just do a comment that I saw this morning from Bolson Outdoors. I looked up that passage. You know, I'm saying don't treat the Jews of Israel, don't treat them badly, because 1/3 of them are going to end up being your brothers and sisters. And so I looked up the verse that you said, "For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Christ has come in the flesh." This is a deceiver and an antichrist. The way I look at that, so is my neighbor, so is everyone else. And that's why I say every place is evil. Every place has an evil, especially today, right? It's always been that way, but because of connectivity and all those things, it's a lot worse now. Just the propaganda against the Jews throughout history has worked. And it's because there's a curse on them. Right now, that curse will be lifted. Zechariah 12, 13, 14 proves it. So, how about I start this way? God has done the impossible in my life, but I still suffer a lot, and that suffering will never go away. And I'm waiting for that time when our bodies will be glorified. I cannot wait for that time. See, I have a lot of trouble with my throat. It took many years to find out just what that was. So, it was impossible. Impossible is the right word. Where I was to think that I'd be where I am today. Where am I today? Well, look, I'm speaking to you as a brother in Christ, a born-again believer, which is what switched and helped me immensely. It's the sole reason for my success. And yes, I pushed myself, my fleshly body, and I suffer with the equivalent of terminal cancer pain just with one of my pain disorders in my legs and lower back called adhesive arachnoiditis. That's without medication. That is the level of pain. And that's why you see me going back and forth like this a lot in my videos. In any case, I'm in personal support working school. I'm in addictions counseling, health sciences, and university. I volunteer. I run addiction meetings. I got my car license. I got my motorcycle license. Took that 2-day course for motorcycles, and I got a motorcycle. I pay my bills. I keep my place. I have a little rabbit. I go and work and I sell candles. And I do a lot of work beyond that. I keep my body healthy and fit. I eat well, I sleep well, and I learned a lot of lessons. I have no less than 12 pain disorders, with 5 of them being, most of them are intractable, which means they never end, they'll never end. And 5 of those are extremely painful. You know, we're talking 8 and up. And they're the pain suicide diseases. So adhesive arachnoiditis, full body. Before I got that, for a number of years I had full body CRPS like pain, but it's called something else. Like my skin burns, and to a very high degree, like the CRPS pain scale. I have trigeminal neuralgia on both sides. I usually get my attack on this side. I had wicked attacks the other day. And occipital as well. And I'll just leave it there. I had trauma in my early life. I was doing drugs, taking LSD and those types of things. Man, that you know the word, me up. My psychological self, it did. I remember my first trauma, what caused it. I will not share it, but it happened because of an event, a physical event, and I was young. Well, I mean, I was 13 years old, and I developed trauma from it. I didn't feel the same afterwards. You know, hypervigilant and those types that developed. Then I got into, smoking weed, and there was no internet then, and there was no cell phones, and there were still good times back then, and I still had good times, but I got into things like LSD and other stuff, just experiments, just like kids do. And I never got into that stuff because I was bored. That's how it started with me. And I'm studying this stuff, so I know how people get into them for what certain reasons. And it was a bad path. Got in trouble with the law when I was younger. A few times. Court ordered to see psychologists, psychiatrists, and it just wasn't heading in a good direction. And I had a very strict family. I didn't like that, and I rebelled because of it. I did. I didn't like it. I found, like other people's parents weren't like that, and it really troubled me. I remember I had a panic attack, and I squirm like this when I'm on here. Like when I'm looking other ways and stuff, it's because of the pain in my abdomen. Pain in my body. Yeah, I had a panic attack. I had a girlfriend. So it's 17 years old. And it was at school because these, they're like mood stabilizers or whatever they give me, which I don't take now. Stuff that I just never needed. When I drink with alcohol, I'd feel overdosed. And came to school one morning. My mom drove me to school, and I went out to see my girlfriend in the smoking section to go have a cigarette, as I usually do before school. And I felt completely overdosed, and I was having panic attacks, and that's how it began. I ran home. My mom, why are you home? Drove me to the hospital. Bam. They gave me a Valium. I'm like, wow, here's the drug that I needed all this time. There was no info about that type of stuff back then. From that time, I stayed on it for 6 years, and I never abused it, but I never knew what it could do to you. Throughout that time, I drank and drugged and did all that stuff. And when I tried to come off of this, I wanted to come off by myself because I didn't want to be attached to something. That's how it happened. The benzodiazepine protracted withdrawal phenomenon, it's called. It's the worst drug withdrawal of any drug on earth. Take my word for it. Where you can develop literally 100 simultaneous, very troubling symptoms because it affects you neurologically. And, zapping in your brain, things crawling on your skin, you're agitated, you're irritable. And I put up with that for a month. I tried to take it away fully. And my doctor didn't warn me of acute withdrawal and that type of stuff. And that wasn't my fault. I just happened to meet someone in there, in the hospital where I did it. It's like the devil was ready for me. And this person had a whole bunch of that stuff. And I wasn't even really thinking in my head. I just kind of wanted this to stop. And after a month, I took some of their stuff. See, I was on Valium, and he had Ativan and Temazepam. And then I became addicted to them. And that's where my hell really started. I became addicted, a benzo addict, for a number of years. And it's all I cared about. I was already binge drinking on the weekends, like a lot of teenagers and, young adults do. Drinking is so bad for you, for your body. And, man, to tell you the truth, I hated myself. Why did I hate myself? Because I really didn't even know who I was, because I was stuck in drug addiction. I was taking this guy's stuff. I went back on that Valium, by the way. And I did make an attempt, and I almost completely came off of Valium, but not before a number of years of addiction, and I went probably through, I don't know, maybe 150 withdrawals of benzodiazepines. Short term, you abuse it for 7 days, and then you're withdrawal for 10 days. It was horrible. So there's short-term withdrawal and long-term from long-term use. They're different. Same symptoms, but I lived in hell. It was a perpetual thing. And I'd mix it with alcohol and those types of things. That was my life. Yes, there were times I was working and stuff, but I don't want to kind of get into that, though. When you're addicted to drugs, when you're abusing them and alcohol and all those things, you get labeled as all types of things that you really aren't until you stop doing those things. As you can see, I'm not that person, and I went through hell. I'm talking just the benzos. About 3 or 4 years of my life in a pure state of withdrawal, and I tried to take my life because of it in a very serious manner. And I never understood why it didn't work. It was God. I'm not going to tell you what it was. You can go back to the videos. But I did it correctly, and it failed. what would you do in a constant state of benzodiazepine withdrawal? I couldn't handle my life. Yeah, I believed in God during those times, but obviously I didn't have my trust in God. I'm going to move on to some other things. I remember being in a car with my friend in his IROC Z. He was drinking, and I was also. We were about 18 years old, and he always had fast cars and muscle cars. On a back road that did we're going straight in it, and it did like a turn, like it wasn't sharp, but it was slow and like angled, like you call it 90-degree angle, but very slow. 180 kilometers an hour we were going down a road, and he tried to make that turn at that speed, and the car slowly spun around, and it hit the curb sideways, full sideways. It jumped the curb sideways, and we ended by a pole that was, I don't know, man, it was like 3 feet thick, and we ended up right beside it. Those types of car things, that's not the only thing. We were stupid. We were really stupid back then. I remember working as a training. I was in a government program that they were offering, and it was a job. So you started as a chef. You're working to be as a cook to be a chef. And the guy asked me, the chef asked me to clean out the industrial refrigerator freezer. You know, it was a sliding door, you know, you could see through it. And he gave me the thing to clean it with, and it was a wire mesh brush. I hadn't done this before, and it was a big, you know, it was 10 feet long anyways. So I opened it up, I start cleaning around, and I go up to the top, and I couldn't see that the light socket wasn't, the light wasn't there, and it was in a place where it's hard to see. All of a sudden, and there was only about one or two other people in the kitchen at that time. It's usually full. I felt as if someone punched me in the back of the head, or shook me so hard. I looked around, no one was there, and I managed to pull it away and then look, I guess. I looked over, and then this woman's looking at me with a smile like, you know what? And then I told her, and then, you know, I could have died right there. I could have died right on that spot. You hear stories of people dying that way. Then, give me a little break here. This is all glory to God, and that's just what I want to make it. It didn't matter what happened to me. It didn't matter how severe or serious it was. It didn't work. And I believe that's because God foreknew me. God called me. I believe God called me to help people who are suffering, physically and mentally. Obviously, a lot of people in the body of Christ have gone through different traumas, and I would say probably a lot of trauma, and a lot of different heartaches and pains. And how many people in the body of Christ don't go through trials who are truly saved? So I was working at that same place. My friend would want me to go with him after my work to accompany him while he was a courier. And one of his the calls that he got. So we were sitting out in the field. It was a nice sunny day, and outside of his car, we're sitting in the field. just waiting for him to get a call. He gets a call, and it's to go to the courthouse, downtown Ottawa, on Elgin Street. It's a very busy area. It's the artery of the city. So we go down, and we park a few blocks away, as is normal. Unless you want to go through all the trouble of parking in there. I think it does, anyways. So we park, he pays, and then we're talking all the way to the courthouse. And we're walking our way towards the road that crosses over, and the courthouse is right there. So as we're walking, I'm walking forward, my friend's on my right, I'm on the left. And while I'm talking to him, I'm looking at him like this, okay? I'm looking at him like that. And it must have been a good conversation, because I was really into it. And must have been about God. And we got to the edge of the street, and I kept walking. And I do put the fault on myself mostly, but right there on the side of the road was a big construction portable on, like, it was halfway on the road and on the sidewalk. So I may have looked, and that would have blocked my view. I don't know, but I'm just going to blame it on myself. I walk right across. It's probably had to be a quarter way on, because vehicles could still make it by, but it was blocking the way of view. All of a sudden, so I kept walking, and then I heard, "Dave!" I look at my friend, and I look quickly over, because I guess my brain told me that you're on the road. And I look over, and the first thing I see is the grill of a GMC truck. So as I'm looking at you, I'm staring at GMC. And it's coming at me quickly, and it's like right at me. It's like 7 feet away from me, and it's going about 40 or 50 kilometers an hour. He said he was going over the speed limit, so it had to be 50. It was a 40 zone, it had to be 50. And I've always been known, I still do, I have very fast reflexes. And I managed to turn, so I was facing the courthouse. This truck is coming at me like this, and I managed to turn like this, and I managed to get front to the truck, because sideways could have been really devastating. And somehow I turned, I got on the truck, but it clipped my left knee. I made, the force put me onto the hood. And then the guy, of course, he slammed on his brakes. And then when he slammed on his brakes, somehow, I don't know, don't ask me why, how, I ended up being shot forward, where I could see forward. I was going forward. Maybe I was like, I don't know, man. My friend said when I saw you, it was like Superman. I'm like real Superman. So it was about 15 or 20 feet that I was shot. And I remember being, I don't know what I really remember, but I knew I was going to hit my knees. Gladfully I had jeans that day. And so I'm going through the air, and then I know I braced for impact. Bam, right onto my knees, and I slid somewhat, got road rash even with jeans, and then I stopped, and this is a GMC extended cab, Silverado, and it didn't matter, right? It's just a truck. Didn't matter what it was, it hit me. Well, I guess it was the pounds behind it, right? But then I just stayed where I was, and I couldn't breathe. I tell you, I couldn't breathe for I couldn't catch my breath for at least 40 seconds. It was horrifying, man. And That was right in front of a courthouse. Lawyers and all that type of stuff, they couldn't deny this one, right? And I wasn't looking to sue anyone. I was the one who walked out. But in any case, an ambulance came. I remember feeling that I didn't even want to. There was so many people around me in a circle because it was such a busy area. People got out of their cars, everything. The ambulance came, took me to the hospital, gave me intravenous Toradol, and I ended up with messed up knees, what I thought would be for the rest of my life. I had such bad knees. My patellas, I forget what it is. I have something missing in my knees that you guys have that I no longer have because they were scraped so hard. They were grinded so hard together. But even so, I have greater mobility than seemingly most people I know. I mean, I can walk any amount of distance, and I could not do that before. I don't get much pain in my knees. Glory to God. I don't want to make this forever. These were the early times, and there's some things that I do not want to reveal for personal purposes. In 2000, I was so sick of these withdrawals, and I was finally beating the Valium withdrawal. I put 6 months of my life into a withdrawal, and I was starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. Like my life was virtually destroyed for 6 months trying to get off of this, while your brain tries to reconnect. And I wanted to go on an antidepressant that I did my studying. I want one that isn't an SSRI, SNRI, because, those reviews, those studies come from the drug companies themselves. So I do my own due diligence and look. And I find this drug that's 85 to 100% effective. I'm not sharing what that is with you because I'm not big pharma. But there was heavy restrictions on it for food. You could get a hypertensive crisis if you ate the wrong food. And but I was willing to do anything at that time because I was so depressed. Because I was a drug addict, right? Because I was an abuser of alcohol and drugs and those types of things. No wonder, right? And I didn't really have God in my life in a faithful manner. Let me eat for a bit here. I believe all these things I went through is to come out on the other end with the knowledge of God, not only the knowledge of God, but to be an advocate for people. I think that this is all about, both of them, even more. So I went on this drug. I have autism, so I have I don't have the same nervous system as other people do. There's a lot more people with autism now today, but they're not adults yet. Where it used to be 1 in 100 or 1 in, for men it was like 1 in 160 or something like that. That's when I was born. But now it's like, I don't know, whatever RFK says is probably true because of the foods or whatever they're doing with what. So I took this medication and I followed it. And I ended up with the serotonin syndrome. I don't want to try to draw this out. I was confused, I was agitated, I was euphoric, I was all those things. I was going in and out of states of irritability and agitation to euphoria, and it was going back and forth, back and forth. Nobody could figure out what it was because I was on other meds at the same time, that some things could be responsible also, like it could have also been something else. And then it would just go up and down, up and down. I had 2 hypertensive crises, And the people I was dealing with didn't even know that the black box warning on it said hypertensive crisis. The worry that was more like, if I come off of it, I'm going to be even worse. And I went through so many convulsions and seizures that I tore my neck. Pain began in my neck. After 13 months, I came off that med, by the way, and those things disappeared. So I know what it's like to have dementia. I do. I understand what it's like to have that, because that's what the serotonin syndrome was doing to me. It was scary. Pain began in my neck. This horrible pain in the back of my neck. Then it spread to my face. I was like holding my face for almost 3 weeks in my bed. And they were starting to give me opioids, morphine, long-acting morphine, Tylenol 4. It just started, and then within a few months, it spread to my entire body. They didn't know what it was, and I was never justified for this new pain. My skin was burning, my bones were aching, my muscles hurt so much, it was so hard to move. I couldn't wear the same clothes anymore. The lights were so bright. And that's what my life became. And I was, after that med taken away, of course I was, to take away the pain, I was going and drinking, and 3 years they couldn't tell me what it was, because the diagnostics for full body RSD or whatever, most people never make it, because it's so hard to make the criteria of full body RSD, and they say there's no such thing as that now, and that's why they gave me a new diagnosis that they described, called the nociplastic pain syndrome. And because CRPS, you just have it in one body part. But the people that have that one body part, I have it all over my whole body. And so after 3 years of no answers, I tried to take my life in a very serious manner that should have killed me outright. I did research afterward, and I couldn't find a single person with that same thing that survived. And I'm not going to give you the details here, because it's just not what I want to convey. If you want to know those details, you can go back to I Shouldn't Be Alive part 1 to 4. There's no way I should have lived what that was, but yet he kept me alive. And the hell I went through with that pain was just unimaginable. It was an abdominal injury. And because of that, I started to develop other disorders on top of what happened in my abdomen. Then my life was starting to go way downhill. Things are starting to get out of control. I'm developing really severe abdominal pain. The surgery that I had on my abdomen, major surgery, I developed severe adhesions all the way from my sternum and my pelvis. Now I have gallbladder hyperkinesia, so it's like having a gallstone from what that did to me. You know what I'm talking about? Kidney stones, and they operated on my splenic flexure, and I developed a splenic flexure syndrome a few years after, not a few years after. Anyways, it was like about 6 years after that. So I'm in absolute hell, and I'm wasting away. You think I'm thin now? It's because of my abdomen. It's because of my abdominal disorders. I was a smoker, and I was a pretty heavy smoker. I was the type that always loved to have a cigarette for every meal. I never went a time without a cigarette. And all of a sudden, every time I took a puff of a cigarette, it felt like there was contractions, like a heart attack. I'm like, man, and I kept smoking anyways. I could only take a single puff at a time. My whole esophagus would be crushed. All of these answers for all of this I couldn't find for another until God came into my life and gave me every single one of the diagnoses. Why is it so hard to speak? I got my diagnosis, dysphonia of my throat. What happened? Why can't I smoke these cigarettes? It was such a mystery for so long. It felt like a heart attack every time. Like my front would contract, my back. I'm like, this is achalasia. It wasn't achalasia, but it was the same. It was the same thing. I found out my lower esophageal sphincter is measured at the same level as someone with achalasia. So hence why I'm thin. Just one of the reasons. And that's what's causing the dysphonia, because you'll see me stop and I have to stop and I'll go eat. It's because I'm getting huge spasms in my esophagus. I'm not done. I'm getting there, because I mean, this could just go on and on and on. It could. I don't want to make it like that. What I'm revealing to you here is about the half of it. So I was getting these massive things. I couldn't breathe. Every time I spoke, like it's massive contractions. This little Buscopan pill is an antispasmodic of your stomach and your throat, and I didn't have that. I was stuck back in a bed. Why? So there I was, I had my first intractable pain disorder. I was an addict and all these things. My addiction stopped when I got my pain. My first nosoplastic pain, intractable pain disorder, the pain of CRPS. Then my abdomen, and then all these branching things off of it. Then I'm wasting away because my abdomen hurts so much that I can't figure out why. I'm lactose intolerant, I'm celiac, I can't eat wheat and stuff like that any longer. It's just a nightmare, beyond nightmares. I'm wasting away, I'm getting thin, and then all of a sudden, because the medical community couldn't help me in any way, I was so distressed daily. Like I would come off of my opioid completely and say, here, look, I'm in the same pain. It's not the opiates, because they were wondering if it was causing my abdominal pain. Then I'd go back on them, and it'd be this big cycle. And then I tried to take my life. I crushed my Cossacks. There were some things that happened to me before then. I brought myself to a bridge. I didn't know if I was going to jump off of it. They threw me in jail. They threw me in an actual correctional facility. Not a jail, a correctional facility, for standing at a bridge and considering jumping off of it. I'm not even kidding you. There's a story behind that, and I do believe it's God. I was stuck in a correctional facility, and all by in a solo cell. What do you call that again? Isolation. And they treated me horribly. I told them I'm on morphine. I'm on this benzo. I'm on that benzo. I was on so many different painkillers to stop this pain, and they kept me there for 4 days without anything. I didn't sleep those whole 4 days. And my parents didn't even believe me when they came and picked me up, because they were the ones sitting in court. Whatever, $10,000 bond thing. You don't pay $10,000. It's just like, it was all out of distress. I wasn't playing a game. I was looking for help every single sector of society. I just wanted a professional to actually look at me. And there was, the things I was going through were real. Anyways, I jumped off a very small cliff. A small cliff. It wasn't big, but I was very distressed. I crushed my Cossacks. It was because of the way I was treated and because of the distress that I was feeling of the pain, and no one was helping me. And I broke my ankle. I thought I had shattered my legs. I was screaming, man. The pain was so bad. They brought me to the hospital, and I left, and I, nursed my ankle. And I remember my brother was training as an RCMP officer, so he wasn't here because we'd always go on walks. And I was just going on walks by myself, and something was happening. And I'm walking one night. I'm probably 2 kilometers away from my home. And coming from my broken ankle, which was healing because I was walking, were these very painful shocks. And it went up my leg, and it would stop you right on the spot. They hurt that much. And it went up, I don't know if it went up to my hip area. I'm not talking about sciatic. That's not what I'm talking about. But those are painful too. And then it spread into the other, and I was like, what? Give me a second. Something was beginning to happen. Some process. My throat, man. I do my best here. I'm not kidding you. My legs were really starting to hurt, and I couldn't understand why. And I just remember waking up in the morning, taking my meds, lying down, or sitting down, turning on the TV. It'd take me a while, then I'd go for walks and things like that. I really like going for walks, especially when my legs hurt that much. But within 3 months, it was getting so bad. My legs were starting to burn that I was going up to the pubs by myself, which I never did by myself. I would have, rum and coke and maybe a shot, and it would be like that to take away this pain. There was nothing else. Sometimes that's the only way you can take away someone's very severe pain in your NMDA receptors. Like ketamine, same type of thing. That's why alcohol works on pain. That's all I'm saying. Within 6 months, I couldn't even walk up to the pub anymore. And I was home, and I started to waste away, stuck on a couch, became so depressed. And it just got worse and worse and worse. I couldn't even go to the bathroom on my own anymore. I had to travel to the hospitals to get enemas and stuff like that because I was on opiates, And I didn't understand it was because of my abdomen. And of course, I wasn't moving around. I could go on and on with my story. I was developing adhesive arachnoiditis, the worst pain disorder there is. That's why I moved back and forth with my legs. I lost everything I had that mattered to me. I even had another attempt on my life. And that, because it just kept getting more and more and more and more distressing. And no one was giving me answers, but the answers lay in my spine. And my first pain disorder, I was never treated properly. I'm telling you the truth. I'm not one of those people who's saying, oh, I was treated badly, I'm going to sue you. It wasn't like that. It was like people weren't listening to me. And it was the same old story every time. And I kind of got lost in them, that how it began. I took a med. These convulsions were by the hundreds, so my head was turning back and forth in convulsions. My parents watched it. I have it on video. And yeah, I hurt my neck that way. That's how it began. That's all I know. And I ended up, and here I am, right? I lost everything that mattered to me. I couldn't even breathe in my bed. It was so bad that I couldn't even sleep. I was lucky to get 1 or 2 hours of sleep in a row. So in a 24-hour period, I was so tired I was going into delirium. I was like almost in a full delirium for months and months and months at a time. I'd get microsleeps and I would know when they were coming. And I'd get very angry at my family if they walked by the door. That's the way it was, because it would wake me up. I was in such a bad place, and I had another attempt on my life that really hurt my neck. And I'm not going to give you details. You can go look at that, but let's stop there. No matter what I did, God wouldn't let me die. If you saw them on paper, which I'm not going to do for you, it's like, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. And I don't mean to be rude or anything. I could be doing my schoolwork right now, but something inside, I keep falling behind because I'm doing these videos. I'm not kidding you. Don't think I'm rude or anything like that, but it is. I want to tell you the glory of God. It didn't matter what I did. It doesn't matter what I do right now. I could go and fly myself out that window. That is the way my life has been. Finally, I moved out in this place on my own after a lot of things happened. Like my mom died. I didn't get along with my dad. Moved in here. I was afraid and I wasn't afraid, because what am I going to do in this state? My neighbors who have been here for at least 5 years, like one yesterday I talked to, said, I remember where you were. You could barely even make a step. And when I let go of that cane and I put faith, started to do my own groceries, and it went from there. And there was that woman, that one who deceived me. Learned my boundaries, and now where I am, I'm in a place where I can help other people. There's not much I don't know how to empathize with a person and know how to help them. Pretty much the only thing that never happened to me was being left in complete poverty, although I never had much money. I'm not ashamed of those things. I want to be very careful about what I say. If someone else said, hey, I'd like to hear your story, I would tell those details. But this, no, I don't. I just want to. There are reasons why we suffer and go through things. And I often wonder, it's 333, I'm not even kidding you. We go through that's the only number that, 3. We go through things in our life for reasons. And I think that's to break us, to put us in a place that we can be humble towards everything. And our end goal is to be like Jesus Christ. Remember, he came here, and his own death was truly painful. He had the things that were whipped on his back. Just think of the crown of thorns that went into his head. Those were thorns that were probably about that big. I can't pretend, but they were thorns. They beat his back with a whip that most likely had ends like this on it. So it tore the flesh. And what did John say? He was unrecognizable, or was that Isaiah? In any case, you guys probably know. I just don't know in this moment. I don't dwell on these things. I feel great that God took me away from them. Finding out who you really are, away from addiction and away from people in your life who are not good for you. Keep learning. Learn scripture, go to school. Don't ever let someone tell you not to go to school. How else are you going to become educated? You can become educated by yourself, of course, but the reasons I'm in the things that I'm in, or conducting meetings and helping people a lot, is because I know I'm in the proper position to do so. And Christ gifted me with that, and I never want those days to come back. And I haven't abused for more than a decade, easily for a decade, or like 15 years. That's where I'm going to leave it. We suffer for a reason. God bless, guys. Now, I don't want to go any further into this. Like I said, I'll link those up if you want to hear it. I don't want to make this about. What's the right word? Gory. That's not what this is about. So I didn't want to come about this and like I was boasting or anything like that. I'm the very opposite. I don't want to do that. But I want to show you what I went through to give you an idea of who God is. I'm not saying that God wanted me to go through those pains that I went through. I made those decisions. But I was in a state where no one could help me any longer.